This is a must-watch coming-of-age film for every woman in her lifetime. If you're going through the darkest moments of your life and don't know what to do, you absolutely have to see this. She was once a sensational beauty pageant winner in America, but in just 6 years she went through 2 failed marriages, wasted her youth, and ended up a single mother. Even though she had 3 kids to care for, she didn't even have a job, which made her life incredibly hard. To make ends meet, Erin tried hard every day to find work, but without enough experience, no company dared to hire her. Each disappointment left her more confused, and although she was nearly suffocating under the weight of poverty, she still spent her last $100 on a fried chicken meal for her kids. That day, Erin was driving to an interview when she collided with a car that ran a red light. She endured the pain in her neck and showed up in court, just to fight for the compensation she deserved. But this case, which should have been a sure win, ended in total failure because of one thing she said.
1,000 in debt? So, you must have been feeling pretty desperate that afternoon.
What's your point?
Broke, 3 kids, no job. A doctor in a Jaguar must have looked like a pretty good meal ticket.
Objection.
He hit me.
So you say.
He came tearing around the corner, out of control.
An ER doctor who spends his days saving lives was the one out of control.
That asshole smashed in my neck.
Fuming, she stormed out of court, blaming everything on her lawyer, Ed. Faced with the medical bills and 3 small children, Erin was on the verge of breaking down. But no one could have guessed that this unfair lawsuit would end up changing her life forever. When she got home, she went next door to pick up her kids like usual. But the neighbor told her she was moving in with her daughter and wouldn't be able to help anymore. One setback after another didn't even leave her time to cry. She knew as a mother, any slip-up could send everything spiraling. With nowhere else to turn, she marched into Ed's law firm and forced herself into a job. Ed was baffled when he found out and tried to talk her into leaving.
And I've looked. But when you spend the past 6 years raising babies, it's real hard to convince someone to give you a job that pays worth a damn, are you? I'm smart, I'm hardworking, and I'll do anything, and I'm not leaving here without a job. Don't make me beg. If it doesn't work out, fire me.
But looking at this young mother beaten down by life, Ed couldn't help but feel compassion and let her stay. There were no benefits with the job, but Erin was already deeply grateful just to be there. But even after finally landing the job, Erin didn't get right to work. She walked straight into Ed's office and asked for an advance on a month's salary. Although Ed was helpless, he ultimately reached into his own pocket and gave her money to help her get through the tough times. But Erin's boldness didn't stop at the job interview. Because of her revealing clothes and occasional foul language, the female co-workers often gossiped behind her back and even tried to isolate her. Instead of complaining about the whispers and judgment, she chose to keep her head down and work hard. When Ed gently reminded her to watch what she wore, she snapped right back at him without hesitation.
Well, it just so happens, I think I look nice. And as long as I have 1 ass instead of 2.
Ed was so stunned by her response, he didn't know what to say and just walked away. What he never could have imagined was that this fierce, sexy single mom would one day bring him immense fortune. One night, just after getting the kids to bed, Erin heard a loud buzzing outside. When she opened the door, she saw a group of young bikers revving up their engines. One of them, George, had just moved in next door and wanted to introduce himself, but Erin harshly told him to cut the noise. Still, George was intrigued by her boldness and asked for her number. To his surprise, Erin gave a shocking reply.
Yeah, sexy, huh? How about this for number 6? That's how old my other daughter is. 8 is the age of my son. 2 is how many times I've been married and divorced. 850-3943. That's my phone number. And with all the numbers I gave you, I'm guessing 0 is the number of times you're gonna call it.
Before George could react, she slammed the door in his face. Later that day, Erin went to pick up her kids from the babysitter, only to find the house locked and empty. Panicked, she rushed home only to see the kids playing at the neighbors. It turned out the babysitter had something come up and left the kids with George without telling Erin. She was furious at the babysitter's irresponsibility, but George had kindly stepped in and was now gently caring for the kids. She had assumed George was some rough biker, but he turned out to love kids, patiently playing with them until they all fell asleep. When George learned about Erin's situation, he offered to look after the kids, saying his freelance schedule was flexible and he could help ease her burden. Erin was moved by this unexpected kindness, but her past experiences made her cautious. Her voice was grateful but guarded as she warned George,
This isn't gonna get you laid, you know.
No, that's good, because I didn't find you attractive either.
With George's help, Erin was finally able to focus completely on work. One day, while sorting through a real estate case, she found some medical bills and health reports mixed in with the files. These documents had nothing to do with the lawsuit, which left her confused. She asked a coworker for help, but they didn't want to bother. Instead, they mocked her, saying she wasn't cut out for this kind of job. But Erin wasn't discouraged. She decided to speak directly with the client to find out the truth. This investigation led her to uncover a hidden secret. Through her conversation with the client, Donna, she learned that both Donna and her husband had cancer. They hadn't planned to move, but the local power company kept pressuring them to sell their home at a very low price, which they refused. Puzzled, Erin asked, "I just don't see why you're corresponding with PG&E about your medical problems." It turned out the wastewater discharged by the power company contained a large amount of chromium. To prove to the public that this substance was harmless, they not only offered residents free annual checkups, but also generously covered their medical expenses. But behind this so-called kindness, Erin felt a growing sense of unease. So she consulted a chemistry professor and learned that chromium actually comes in 3 forms. Pure chromium is beneficial to the human body, and trivalent chromium is basically harmless. But the most dangerous is hexavalent chromium, a highly toxic substance that not only causes various types of cancer, but also damages human DNA, and could even be passed down to future generations. These words sent a chill down Erin's spine. The problem was far more serious than she had imagined. To find out which form of chromium the factory was using, she went to the records room, where all of the power company's test reports from over the years were kept. The young man managing the room was utterly captivated by Erin's sexy figure and let her freely access the files. After digging through piles of documents, she finally discovered the factory was using hexavalent chromium, and she quickly backed up the files and sent them to Ed. But when she returned to the office full of confidence, she found her desk had been cleared out. Exhausted, Erin dragged herself home, only to be greeted by a stack of overwhelming bills weighing down on her like an invisible mountain. The next day, just as Erin was busy job hunting, Ed suddenly showed up. He had received the documents and realized the factory had illegally used hexavalent chromium. This case was not so simple after all. When Erin shared her investigation findings with Ed, he saw this could be a major opportunity. And while he wanted to review her evidence, Erin used the moment to negotiate terms.
I want a raise. And benefits, including dental.
Erin, this isn't the way I do business.
What way is that?
Extortion.
Left with no choice, Ed reluctantly agreed. After going through the documents, Ed asked in confusion,
What makes you think you can just walk in there and find what we need?
They're called boobs, Ed.
So Erin returned to the records room and copied even more incriminating evidence from the factory. She then visited Donna again, telling her that her illness was caused by the hexavalent chromium in the tap water, and that the only reason the power plant had offered them those benefits was to cover up the truth. Hearing this terrified Donna. She looked at her children playing in the pool and immediately called them out of the water. The next day, Ed handed a thick stack of documents to his assistant and told him to send them to the power company's claims department. But right after the assistant hit send, the phone rang. It was the company asking to meet with Ed in person. Ed thought this might be a breakthrough, but to his surprise, they sent a junior representative. The man was arrogant and flat out denied any connection between the factory and Donna's illness. What made it even more infuriating was that he coldly said, "We're not increasing the offer. This is a fair price." That statement made Ed furious. $250,000 wasn't even enough to cover medical bills. Seeing the company had no intention of negotiating, Ed and Erin got up to leave in anger. But then David arrogantly threw out a threat.
You might want to remember who it is you're dealing with here. PG&E is a $28 billion corporation.
$28 billion? I didn't know it was that much. Wow!
This completely enraged Ed, who was usually calm and composed. Just as Erin was overwhelmed by the pressure of the case, a colleague quietly turned on the desk lamp for her. She didn't say a word, but the small gesture gave Erin a moment of warmth. She slowly began to integrate into the team. Until one night, an unexpected breakthrough came. A couple she'd never met showed up. They used to be Donna's neighbors and had sold their home to the power company a year ago. The man's poultry had all developed tumors one after another, and his wife had suffered 5 consecutive miscarriages. It wasn't until they heard Donna mention chromium poisoning that they realized what had really happened. The next day, Ed visited the couple with sincerity. At first, the conversation went well, but the moment Ed mentioned that the law firm would take 40% of their settlement as a service fee, the atmosphere turned tense. They didn't say a word, but hesitation was written all over their faces. Erin noticed their concern, smiled gently, and began sharing her own story. Moved by her sincerity, the families finally agreed and signed the contract. Erin then visited more residents in the area, and every story she heard was heartbreaking. Some people had full-body rashes that had lasted for years. Some had just been diagnosed with stomach cancer, their eyes full of despair. One family was constantly traveling between home and the hospital. Their child, who should have been happily attending school, had to drop out due to illness. Seeing this girl about the same age as her son, Erin felt a deep, painful tug in her heart. On the way back to the law firm, she had a lot on her mind. These people couldn't keep suffering in silence. She suggested to Ed that they rally the affected families and file a class action lawsuit against the power company. But Ed didn't even take time to think and immediately shut down her proposal. He had planned to use their current evidence to pressure the company into buying the residents' homes at a high price. If they filed a lawsuit now, it would shift from a property case to a toxic pollution case, and they'd be going up against a $28 billion corporation. Erin tried to convince Ed to reconsider, but he didn't want to hear it. He shut the door in her face. Erin stood outside his office, her heart boiling with frustration and anger. To collect more evidence against the power plant, Erin stepped into the polluted river and pulled out dead frogs from the water. She even risked climbing down a deep well to collect groundwater samples. But her actions didn't go unnoticed by the power company. That night, she received a threatening phone call from them, warning her to back off or face the consequences. George hurried to persuade Erin to stop, reminding her that work is meant to support life, not bring danger into it. But Erin remained completely unwavering. She believed this was her responsibility. Her tone was firm, her eyes unwavering, as if those threats were nothing more than tiny bumps in the road. After 9 months of relentless effort, Erin finally achieved an incredible milestone. She gathered information on 410 employees and organized 162 detailed statements. Each document carried the weight of her sleepless nights and constant hustle. She had thrown her own life aside for this battle. One day, Erin finally wrapped up her day's work and got a rare moment to spend with her family. George and the kids were excitedly planning a warm, cozy evening together. But just as they were about to enjoy this precious time, Donna showed up with a power plant employee. Erin knew this was a crucial lead, so she reluctantly asked George and the kids to go home without her. George watched the motorcycles racing in the distance, a look of disappointment on his face. He had once been fully devoted to his own career, but now he felt like a stay-at-home dad, and a twinge of bitterness rose inside him. Meanwhile, Erin learned shocking details from the employee. The power plant had been using hexavalent chromium as a chemical treatment to prevent rust in the cooling towers. That wastewater was supposed to be stored in leak-proof ponds, but to cut costs, the power company skipped that step entirely. For 14 years, the toxic chromium water had been recklessly discharged, seeping deep into the groundwater system. Ed decided they could no longer wait. It was time to file a lawsuit. But now they faced a major risk. The current evidence could only prove that the branch company illegally used hexavalent chromium, but there was no solid link to the main headquarters. If the headquarters claimed they had no knowledge, even if they won, the compensation would only come from the branch, which wasn't nearly enough to cover the residents' suffering. After much thought, they chose to take a gamble. Ed planned to file the lawsuit and observe the company's response. If headquarters felt pressured, they might propose a settlement, which would give them a real shot. But if the company decided to fight, it could spiral into a years-long battle of paperwork. The bigger hurdle was whether the case could even be formally filed. The company's legal team wouldn't stay silent. They would likely raise every objection imaginable to convince the judge to dismiss it. This first legal battle would be a decisive one. Fortunately, the initial filing went surprisingly well. The judge reviewed all 84 objections prepared by the power company and rejected every single one. The case was officially filed, marking the first real step toward justice. Just as Ed predicted, the company quickly sent a powerful legal team to initiate settlement talks. But the terms they proposed were almost laughable.
I want you to think real hard about what your spine is worth, Mr. Walker. or what you might expect someone to pay you for your uterus, Miss Sanchez. Then you take out your calculator and you multiply that number by 100. Anything less than that is a waste of our time. By the way, we had that water brought in special for you folks. Came from Well and Hinckley.
Their offer was superficial at best. It didn't address the root issues and failed to meet even the residents' most basic demands. It was clearly just a tactic to stall for time. That night, Erin worked late and came home exhausted, only to find that George had already packed his bags. He had bought those earrings for her 6 months ago, full of hope. But Erin had been so consumed with work that she never even noticed. After waiting 6 long months, George's patience had run dry. Erin didn't want to lose him, but if she had to trade her life's mission for love, she couldn't make that sacrifice. George couldn't understand. Disappointed, he left the gift behind and walked away. Now alone again, Erin continued working while raising the kids. Her resilience moved her co-workers, who stepped up to help lighten her load. After the case was filed successfully, a major law firm that once doubted their chances suddenly proposed a partnership. Erin was skeptical. It felt like handing over free money. But Ed disagreed. He believed that to win this case, they needed the resources and experience that only a big law firm could provide. To reassure Erin, Ed gave her a $5,000 bonus and a brand new car as a reward for her incredible dedication. Sure enough, the involvement of the big law firm quickly had an impact. The power plant offered a settlement between $50 million and $400 million. But on the condition that the case be kept out of public trial, that at least 90% of the plaintiffs agree to sign, and that no appeals be allowed after the judgment. Erin knew in her heart that while money mattered to the residents, what they truly wanted was justice. But if the case went public, it could drag on for 10 or even 20 years. After serious consideration, she decided to accept the offer. The next big task was getting the residents to sign the agreement. Without discussing it with Erin beforehand, the attorney Teresa took the residents' files, saying she needed to double-check for missing details. Erin immediately felt uneasy. She suspected Teresa's actions weren't so innocent. Suddenly, it hit her. Maybe the big law firm wasn't just helping. Maybe they were planning to edge them out entirely.
I said, whose number do you need?
You don't know 600 plaintiffs' numbers by heart.
Annabelle Daniels, 714-454-9346. 10 years old, 11 in May, lived on the plume since birth. Wanted to be a synchronized swimmer, so she spent every minute she could in the PG&E pool. She had a tumor in her brainstem detected last November. An operation on Thanksgiving shrunk it with radiation after that. Her parents are Ted and Rita. Ted's got Crohn's disease. Rita has chronic headaches and nausea and underwent a hysterectomy last fall.
And just as Erin feared, her intuition proved right. She was reassigned to take notes for the data collectors, while Teresa took over her job, visiting plaintiffs to get their signatures. But when Teresa arrived at a livestock farm and saw how messy the environment was, she refused to even step inside the plaintiff's home. Many plaintiffs were already unhappy that the case wouldn't go to public trial, and Teresa's arrogant, condescending attitude only fueled their resentment. Several of them angrily called Erin, saying they felt deceived. Erin panicked. She had only taken 2 days of sick leave, and now the whole case was about to collapse. To rebuild the plaintiff's trust, Erin and Ed quickly organized a town hall meeting. Building on the deep trust Erin had earned, and with Ed's thorough and convincing analysis, the plaintiffs gradually let go of their doubts and signed the agreement one after another. Still, 150 people had not attended the meeting, so Erin had no choice but to visit them, one by one. As the court date approached, time grew dangerously short. She braced herself and asked George to help watch the kids so she could fully focus on the work ahead. She began knocking on doors day and night, then went home to sort through the paperwork, often collapsing into bed from exhaustion. After several grueling days, Erin finally gathered all 634 signed agreements. Early the next morning, she laid the fruits of her labor on the big law firm's desk. 634 signatures lined up neatly, a declaration of her resolve and triumph. When everyone asked in disbelief how she managed to do it,
Seeing as how I have no brains or legal expertise, and Ed here was losing all faith in the system, am I right?
Oh, yeah, completely no faith, no faith.
I just went up there and performed sexual favors. 634 blowjobs in 5 days. I'm really quite tired.
Of course, she was only joking, but the comment left Teresa, who had once underestimated her, utterly speechless. At last, the court's ruling was immensely satisfying. The case won $333 million in damages, setting a new record for the largest settlement payout in U.S. history. Once the good news came through, Erin brought George along to personally share the joy with the plaintiffs. When Donna learned she'd be receiving $5 million in compensation, tears of joy welled up in her eyes. As Donna and Erin embraced, crying in each other's arms, George finally understood why Erin had fought so hard. In the end, Ed moved into a bigger office and made the cover of a major magazine. When it came time to issue bonuses, Ed suddenly warned Erin to brace herself. The numbers weren't what they had originally agreed upon. Erin thought Ed was trying to back out of their deal and was so furious she nearly exploded. Ed hurriedly dropped the bonus slip and fled. But when Erin saw the amount on the bonus slip, she was completely stunned. The bonus was a staggering $2 million. Seeing her stunned face, Ed playfully asked, "How do beauty queens say sorry?" Erin was completely speechless. Not long after, Erin was invited to become a partner at the firm, forming a powerful duo with Ed. This is a true story. The film is based on the real-life journey of Erin Brockovich and stars Julia Roberts. But this movie isn't just about personal triumph. It's also a powerful environmental wake-up call. Erin's story shows us that true strength isn't about being flawless, but about rising again even when covered in scars, choosing to believe and choosing to fight. Every hardship in life is a miracle waiting to redefine who you are. When the world casts doubt your way, let your actions speak with razor-sharp clarity. When fate slams a door in your face, kick open another with courage. Your worth is not defined by others. It's forged by the resilience of your spirit. Even if life feels like a map filled with thorns, you can still walk it with purpose and light up every corner with your dreams. So believe this: setbacks are only temporary. With hope and bravery, you'll eventually reach your own moment of light. Remember, your story is still being written, and the ending is yours to decide.